Okay, all right, Zane, do you want to go ahead and record and we'll get started?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I'm Holly Northup. I'm the Director of Operations for the Bucher Group, and we are excited to bring you this buyer seminar, and it's going to show you the steps you need to buy a home during a pandemic. So this is our team. 4 of our wonderful agents are going to be presenting today. So Zane, Ashley, Sharon, and Kelsey are going to take you through the whole process, but all of our team is on to help answer any of your questions throughout. So as you have questions throughout, feel free to post those in the chat box. We'll make sure to answer them. Then at the end of the event, we'll have a little bit more time for Q&A. Okay, so first thing we want to know is, what do you want to learn about the home buying process, or what are you hoping to get out of our seminar today? If you just want to post some things in the chat box, we would love that. Okay, and then Ashley, do you want to take it away?
I sure do, Holly. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Ashley Major. I am with the Bucher Group, obviously. I'm going to touch base on the fears versus facts about buying a new home. So firstly, let me dispel any misconceptions about buying a new home. Number one, I can't afford to buy a new home right now. Until you actually do the math, you don't know what you can or can't afford. Are you paying rent? Then you may be able to buy a home. You'll be putting your money towards rent, towards paying that home, not someone else's. In addition, there are tax savings that can often make up most of the difference between rent and a mortgage payment. We'll walk through the math later in this presentation. Number two, I should wait until the market gets better. There is never a bad time to buy the right home. My job is to help you find a good buy and ensure that you have the financial ability to hold on to it. Every market has an opportunity. It may be just harder to find. Over time, the investment in your home grows no matter what the market. And then number three, I don't have the money for a down payment. There are a variety of down payment options for you. There are loan programs for first-time home buyers with down payments as low as 5% or less. Thinking you will have to wait to save up for a down payment may actually cost you money due to delaying the financial benefits of the home ownership. Number four, I can't afford to buy my dream home. Used to buy your first home and use that first home as forced savings to plan for your dream home. There's another fear for some first-time home buyers about commitment, and it is a big commitment. You just have to remember that you're never without a way out. If it doesn't end up being right for you, you can sell, rent, or have someone else pay that mortgage. What are some of the other misconceptions that you've heard? Feel free to drop those in the chat box and we will answer those for you, or any other questions. And then number five, I can't afford to buy a home because my credit isn't very good. There are always options. Shame doesn't bring you closer to owning a new home or having good credit. There are typically 2 ways of credit challenges: poor credit history or no credit history. Both have solutions. Even if you have poor credit, you should be pleasantly surprised at the outcome. A good loan officer or mortgage specialist will help you resolve those credit challenges. Number 6, I should wait until I'm certain about my domestic future. People often feel you should wait until married, partnered, or ready to have children to buy a home. You don't need 2 incomes to buy a home. If you buy a home now that your future partner does not like, you will still be entering the relationship with equity. Equity will allow you to be choosier in buying the right home for your family. Number 7, buying a home seems way too complicated. No one would ever tell you that buying a home is easy. That's why you partner with professionals who know the process and are committed to acting in your best interests. From your real estate agent to your mortgage officer, these experts absorb most of the complexity, simplifying the process for you. Number 8, I should pay off my student loan debt before buying a home. Student loan debt does not prevent you from buying a home. If you are making payments on time, you are earning and preserving good credit. If you are having trouble making your payments, student loan services are often good at finding a plan that you can achieve. Putting off buying a new home is putting off building your wealth. And now I'm going to pass it to Zane and he can follow up
Awesome.
with why buy now.
Thanks, Ashley. So a couple of one really compelling stat that I thought I would share. Just the average net worth of a renter in the United States right now, we know it's on average from 2018 right around $5,400, whereas the average net worth of a homeowner is right at $195,000. And again, those figures are a couple of years old now, so I'm sure we'd see some more compelling numbers today. Home ownership, for a lot of folks, it's one of those accidental investments, and truly with a little bit of knowledge of investments and some guidance, it can become a really intentional investment. And the job of a good real estate agent is going to be to help you understand the factors that affect an investment and make it an intentional investment. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefits of taking action now. The first one, we've all heard it, like interest rates. They're historically low. I feel like we've heard this for the last 10 years. But the price you pay to borrow money, that's the interest rate, and it is extremely low. For the last 45 years, a 30-year fixed mortgage it's ranged from 18.6%, that was in the early 80s, to today, in 2020, we've seen rates around 2.75%. And the last 5 years, rates have been kind of range bound between 2.75 and 4%. And like I said, like more recently, consistently below 3%. There's no guarantee that rates will stay low. We've heard this for the last 10 years or so. Oh, rates are going to go up. You need to buy now. And yet here we are with the lowest rates we've ever seen. But truly, like the current low rate environment, we know it's not sustainable long term. Though we do expect over the next 6 or 8 months, though, that we'll see rates around 3%. The second thing, growth of equity. So that's equity is how much value you have in your home. And we know that that grows every year. There's a diagram on the left side of the screen here, and it shows over how a span of 30 years, the equity in a home can increase from $15,000 to $486,000. And I'll talk a little bit through an example in a few minutes here on how those numbers work out. But really what you're seeing is over that period of time, equity buildup, which is a combination of appreciation and debt pay down. So we know that the home's value, it's going to increase over time. That's called appreciation. And then as your loan amount decreases because you're paying it off, you're paying down debt. And then of course, lastly, just the pride of ownership. You know, your home, should represent your personal chase, and it's a haven of stability and security for both you and your loved ones. It's yours. So that's just, again, another benefit of home ownership. Let's pop over to the next slide, Holly. One thing that I wanted to mention briefly, I did actually think this was fascinating, the cost to buy and own a home. Taking some average numbers, now this data is provided by our partners over at Keller Williams Realty International, the research department there. Historically, a family has spent 21.6% of their household income on housing expenses. And today that's down to 15.2%. So about 6.5% less than compared to historically what we're seeing in the market. And that's probably a combination of like higher earning, we have two earners in a household that are high income earners. I'm sure there's a lot at play there with that, but I thought that was an interesting stat. Holly, if you'll take us to the next slide. So a comparison, renting versus owning. I feel like this is a question we get often. To give just an example and some context, taking out a 30-year fixed rate mortgage for $250,000, and you're making monthly mortgage payments of $1,200 a month. That seems perfectly reasonable, that amount of money in comparison to what you might pay for rent. If you look at that over time, let's cast that over 30 years. You're paying $435,000 in mortgage and interest payments over the life of that loan. After 30 years of appreciation, you'd own a home theoretically with an appreciated value potential of nearly $600,000 if you bought it for $250,000. And that's using a 3% annual appreciation. For some markets, that might be a little aggressive. We know for Austin, that is still below par. We've had a lot of appreciation over the past few years. So even comparing that to, let's just say you're paying $1,200 a month in rent over 30 years time, and this is assuming your landlord never raises rent, which is not going to happen, you'd still spend $432,000 in rent and you would own nothing. So, I mean, that's the value proposition behind owning versus renting, is you're building equity for yourself, not somebody else. All right. So there are a couple of reasons, I say a few reasons not to buy. If you are changing jobs soon, that's going to affect your ability to get financing. Lenders want to see 2 years of employment records in the same industry, sometimes the same company. It really depends on how you're being paid if you're W-2 versus 1099, but a lender would be able to very quickly answer that for you. If you need time to work on your credit score, or perhaps you have a lot of debt or not enough of a down payment, we know down payments can be as low as 3%. But if that's a goal that needs to be worked toward, then yeah, I mean, that does affect your ability to get a loan. So at least 3% down for a down payment. And sometimes, like we've been in situations recently too when choices to buy are out of budget, and or maybe they're at the high end and we don't want to be house poor, and so it just doesn't make sense to do that. So in that circumstance, we might be looking at another location, maybe a little bit further out, or maybe a smaller property. Just again, dependent upon location. One thing to keep in mind, like factoring in potential income growth over time, especially if you're new in your career. If you're planning to make a move again soon, so it's a short-term move, something to think about and just keep in mind is that you want to make sure you're building up enough equity. And if you don't have a lot of time to do that, it may not make it worthwhile. And you also want to make sure you're factoring in the potential cost to sell, which we know in some markets can be as high as 7.5 or 8%. One thing I did want to mention too, like surprisingly, our current public health situation with COVID-19, it's not necessarily a reason to hold off on buying. There have been plenty of opportunistic plays, and we all know, I think a lot of the agents here have practiced, showing homes, like making sure that they're prepared and searching safely. So the right agent's going to put the right practices into place to make sure that we're keeping exposure and contact to a minimum. And then lastly, yeah, just wanted to talk through some realities of our market, what we see right now. These stats are current to the hour these were just released today. So the median price of a home within our MSA is $353,000. We know that, buyer versus seller's market, that's a measure of supply and demand, how many houses are available for sale at any given time, and the number of buyers. Our market currently favors sellers. That's no shock to anybody. We have about 1.7 months of inventory on the market. And what that means as a buyer is that supply is limited, demand's high, sellers are in the driver's seat, and buyers are coming in with full price offers, even over list price offers. There's very likely multiple offers that you're going to need help navigating. And one thing too that to keep in mind is there are creative methods for winning multiple offer situations without necessarily being the highest priced offer. So just know that like who you have negotiating on your behalf really does matter. Couple of other highlights to include: low interest rates. So FHA interest rates are right around 2.5%. Now there is a mortgage insurance premium you add into that, so the effective interest rate's a bit higher. VA loans are right around 2.5%, and we are seeing sub 3% on 30-year conventional loans. So lots of opportunity there. And then of course, we just know the growth in Austin. Technology, so we've got Tesla, Dell, Apple, Honeywell, Samsung, of course, like lots of growth in tech, medical, and then development and construction too. So yeah, no shortage there of opportunity. Awesome. And I think I'm handing it off to Kelsey.
Yes. So me and Sharon are going to take y'all through the 6 easy steps to home ownership. Now, these are the steps to get you to your new home. My job is to guide you through all of them. And let's go ahead and get started with step number 1. And if you guys have any questions throughout the presentation, make sure you're throwing them in the chat box. All right, step number 1, that is hire your agent. Now, typically there are 2 real estate agents involved in every transaction. And if Holly, you switch sides, oh, perfect. There's 2 real estate agents involved in every transaction. There's one on the seller's side and there's one on the buyer's side. Do your research when choosing your agent. Ask about their experience, ask about their knowledge, even their negotiation skills. That's one that a lot of people leave out. Find one that suits your needs and one that suits your personality, and not just because, maybe they're your friend or your relative. And know that also it's okay to interview more than one agent when you're selecting an agent. Now, let's walk through the timeline of when you select an agent and all the way to when you close on your new home and move in. So month one is when you're going to be hiring your agent and you're going to be getting your finances in order. This is when you'll talk to a lender and you'll get a pre-approval, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few more slides. Month two is going to be when you start looking. The Austin market moves very fast. I've had clients who find their dream home the first day out, and I have clients where it takes a couple more weeks. But once you do find that home, you'll submit an offer and hopefully we'll get it and you'll go under contract. From there, in month three, this is when you're going to take possession of the home and become a homeowner and close on the property. From going under contract to closing on the property, right now it's taking about 30 to 45 days. And then from month three into month four, that is when you are going to move into your new home and hopefully your lease ends and we timed it perfectly and you're happy with your new home. All right, step two, like I said, is getting pre-approved for financing. Now, you'll see up here we have a pre-approval and we have pre-qualifications. There are important differences between each one. On the right is pre-qualifications. This isn't a formal process. It's not a commitment to a lender. Basically, it's a conversation with a lender about what you might be pre-approved for. It's more of an estimate. On the left side is pre-approvals, and this is what we want prior to starting our home search. It's a formal application with a lender. It's a formal commitment to the lender. It states how much you can borrow and at what interest rate, which is important. That affects your payments. And then it also makes you a stronger buyer when we get into multiple offers. And that's something that we are seeing here in Austin on a daily basis. All right, now choosing a lender. Sometimes this can be a little overwhelming, especially if it's your first time going through the process. I have several approved lenders that I recommend. All of my recommendations, they specialize in first-time home buyers, and they'll be able to work with you confidently and walk you through income, debt, credit, and determine ultimately how much you can afford. They'll also educate you on different aspects of the loan, interest rates, what down payments are. They're your professionals when it comes to the loan. Now, understanding mortgages a little bit more, it is made up of three factors. That's down payment, interest rate, and terms. Your down payment is going to be one of the very first payments you make. This can vary anywhere from 3% all the way up to 20% of a home value. Next is interest rate. This is the amount you pay to have the loan. Currently, like Zane said earlier, interest rates are running from about high 2s to low 3s. And I've had a lot of clients get under 3% recently, which is amazing. It's very, very cheap money. And then the term of the loan, the length of the time you have to pay off your mortgage. Most first-time home buyers go with a 30-year mortgage, but there's also the option of a 15-year mortgage. And so a mortgage is made up of 4 different items: your principal, your interest, your taxes, and your insurance. So your principal is what you're paying into the equity of your home. The interest is what you're paying to the lender to have the loan. And then your taxes, the one that we all hate, is what we're paying to the state and the local entities. And then last is your insurance. This is what you're paying to protect your investment. And once you hit 20% in equity in your loan, this actually goes away. All right, now you've selected an agent, you obtain pre-approval, and you are ready to start looking at your home. Know once you do this that it is essential that you don't change anything in regards to your financial status from the time of pre-approval until you close on your home. So this means no big purchases like a car, spending thousands and thousands of dollars of new furniture on your home, and then no job changes. And then from there, it's the fun part. So you hired your agent, you got your pre-approval, and now we're going to start looking at homes. When we visit together, you'll complete my questionnaire so that I completely understand your needs and wants and choose the right house for you to look at. This is a constantly evolving process. We'll continue to refine it as we make changes and as we further narrow down your wants and needs in your forever home. So when we go out together, we're both going to be looking at very different things. You'll be interested in the layout of the house, the size of the yard, what's the master bathroom like, what are the finish outs, does the home flow and fit your needs? I'm going to be looking at much different things. I'll be looking at how the house compares to other houses in the market, and I'll be looking at, are there any big ticket repair items? You know, are we going to have to replace an AC? Is the roof at the end of its life? Items like that. And then from there, you'll go on to step 4, and I'll let Sharon take it away.
All right. Well, thank you, Kelsey. So now we're on step 4, and it's time to make an offer and negotiate. So you found your home and you're ready to make that offer and then negotiate to a successful close. So several things to consider when we are making that offer. Number 1 is price. So to help you determine a fair price to offer on that home, what we do as your agent is we provide a comparable market analysis, or a CMA, and that is of other properties that have recently sold near the home that you will be making the offer on. We also will be looking at all of the terms. So there's a lot more that we can offer than just price on the house when we do that offer. There's 6 details that we will help you navigate, and those are schedule. So when will it close, as an example, conveyances, what appliances and decor items that are in the home that you would like to stay versus go, commission, who pays those commission fees, both for the agents, the agent representing the seller and the agent representing you, closing cost and who will pay those, home warranty, if seller will provide one or not, earnest money, and that's the deposit that is paid to protect the seller from the possibility of the buyer backing out of the deal at some point. Contingencies, so the conditions that allow you to opt out. So for example, you receive an inspection report and then you discover that there's a foundation problem. So everything's negotiable. That's what's really important to, get across. When we're making an offer, there are a lot of different aspects that we can work on and make sure we provide the strongest offer possible to make sure we get you into that house of your dreams. So the 5th step, this is inspection repairs. So there's no such thing as a perfect home, even brand new homes that have just been built, no such thing. And there will be repairs that are needed. It could be a leaky faucet, or it could be something much more costly. And you will need to find out all of this during a proper home inspection. And we will then, following that home inspection, will help you negotiate the repairs that might be needed. So one of the other things that we do is ensure that we offer you many different home inspectors to consider and help you get to decide which home inspector you want to use. So during the option period, this is often 7 to 10 days after you make the offer. That's the time period where we get your home inspection scheduled, and then we'll consult with you after that inspection is done, and we'll determine the strategy that we're going to use to negotiate, whether it is having the current owner of the home make repairs before you move forward with buying the home, or having the current owner, give you cash at closing that would help you cover some of those closing costs that we talked about earlier. So something to keep in mind, since we know there is no perfect home, don't sweat the small stuff. We want you to know that you're getting into and making a really big decision whether you move forward on buying this home. So you don't want to buy someone else's problems. The big stuff is what you really, really want to be on the lookout for. And that could be things like cracks or crumbling in the foundation, cracks inside the house over windows, water stains, for example, plumbing and electrical problems, mold or termites. So those are some of the large things that you really want to keep your eyes on when you are doing your home inspection and then reviewing it. All right, so you are getting really close and you're about to be a homeowner, and there's just a couple more steps before we get the deal done. So some of these steps are in this piece, you really want to consider in the pre-close, and when you are working through this whole process of buying a home, consider all of the things that you'll need to budget for. So you have many additional expenses outside of that earnest money payment you've made, that big deposit that you're going to make at the closing table. You have closing costs, which a good estimate is 2 to 3% of the loan. And these closing costs, they include things like lender and title fees, an appraisal fee, and other items. There's also the earnest money, that's 1% of the purchase price. Option period money, that can be anywhere from $100 to $400. Inspections, so that is something that the buyer pays for. When you buy that inspection, that's yours to keep, and you use that to help potentially negotiate for additional, costs towards purchasing this home. So that can be anywhere from $300 to $600. Sometimes a survey may need to be purchased by the buyer if it is not purchased and provided by the seller already. There are also other miscellaneous fees to keep in mind. It's a good idea to have 1 year of homeowner's insurance, and also having some reserves for improvements and repairs on the home once you actually move in. There will always be little things that you'll find that you'll probably want to do. Then right before we close, we will do a final walkthrough that typically happens a day before close or the day of close, and we walk through the home together and make sure that what you anticipated buying, you are buying, and you feel comfortable, and there's no outstanding questions that you have or repairs that you thought were going to be made that maybe weren't made. So we'll check on all of that. And then at the closing table, now we're about ready to celebrate. So what you'll need to make sure you bring is certified funds, evidence of insurance, and a valid ID. And then what you're going to get is a settlement statement, transfer of clean title, and then you'll get the keys to your new home. So then you get to go and celebrate. And of course, we want to make sure that you're going to protect your investment. So after you've moved into your home, it's a huge accomplishment, and you have that feeling of pride of home ownership. And so keep in mind that we, as your realtors, we can be a great resource for you even after a deal closes. We've got a lot of service people that we can help get you in touch with to help you keep your home in tip-top shape over the years. So we are here as a resource before you start looking, while you're looking, of course, negotiating and helping you get through that deal. And then once you've closed, we're still here as a resource. So Holly, I'll turn that over to you. Holly, you're on mute.
Thank you. I always do that. So thank you so much, everybody, for presenting. Again, we thank you guys for being here. We're open to any questions you have. All of our agents are available to answer those. So you can either unmute yourself and ask them, or you can post them in the chat box. Just to let you guys know, we are going to be sending out the full slide deck as well as a recording to everybody that registered for the event as well. So you will get that tomorrow. But does anybody have any questions? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're good. Thank you guys so much for attending. We really appreciate you being here, and we hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye, everyone.